Welcome back to the Chasing Happiness podcast, an honest podcast about finding happiness, what it really means, and the process of getting there. My name is Crystal, and today I'm going to talk to Beth Manning. Beth is a master psychic healer and medical intuitive, and we are going to talk about what that means, and we are going to talk about how you ended up on this path, because I have so many questions about this. But before we do that, Beth, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody who's listening?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm excited to answer those questions because I know I get a lot of blank stares when I say, when I say my title. So essentially what it is, if we kind of like the bare bones of it, is that I help people really get to the root cause of what's going on in your body. So often people will have been to specialists and all kinds of doctors who have done tests and, it's still inconclusive, or they're still having pain, or maybe they're having a new pain, or you just don't feel like yourself, right? It's like your vitality is low, your energy is low. So really what I do is I work with energy. All my senses help me to uncover what's going on in your body, like what's a little off, what's imbalanced, where we can do some healing, what needs to be shifted. Oftentimes we have things from our past that we didn't process, that we just kind of pushed down, and we were like, okay, that's over. I hope that goes away. Because we're humans. That's our natural thing, is to move away from pain. So it's really about seeing that the body wants you to understand, how to process that, how to heal that, how to start to move on from that, because it's a really heavy weight to carry. So I help people process that, without having to necessarily go back into the fire and relive it, but to safely help you process it, find your power, find your voice. It's a really all-encompassing process. It's not just focusing on that physical pain or the illness. It's really about looking at you as a whole and deep listening, because so much of our healthcare system, I know at least in the US, we're not listened to. It's like I had chronic pain for years, and it just never felt like anybody sat down. And if somebody had asked me more, they would have seen that I was really just holding in so many emotions that it was like a powder keg ready to blow.
Right.
So I think that deep listening is so important. And that's like really the foundation of the work that I do.
And that's such a huge thing, because even here in Canada, here in North America in general, I think we live in a society where it's like, you're having this problem, see a doctor, get a pill, move on. Forget that you have the problem by treating it with a pill instead of figuring out where it came from. And that actual conversation of like, when did it start? How did it start? What did it feel like? How has it transformed? All of the things, because I think in my personal experience, we are not taught how to listen to our bodies in that way when they're screaming at us that something is wrong, and we don't pay attention until it's so bad that we're forced to go get a pill for it. Right. So this is so important. How did you start down this path? Because this is not something you wake up, at 20 and go, this is what I want to do.
No, it certainly wasn't. So I was a journalist in my first career, and I had a lot of pain, and I would kind of deal with the pain by exercise or just trying to like stay busy all the time. Like I never really gave myself time to just sit and be with myself. Fast forward to losing my job in the recession of 2008. I went to massage school because, in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, like I can't be the only one suffering like this. There have to be other people. And I really had this drive to help them. I really wanted to heal myself and heal other people. And it seemed so easy in massage school. It was like, okay, like we're just going to release these trigger points, like relax this person, give them a nice back massage, and all is going to be good. But I started to see when I was working in student clinic that like that wasn't the formula. It was a very temporary relief that people were feeling. And I myself was feeling the same way. And oftentimes getting a massage would actually make me feel worse, because it would feel okay at first, but then everything would really tighten up again, or I'd have a new pain in my body that I didn't have before. So I started to really go down that rabbit hole of like, what else is happening here? And I started to get into, neurology and the nervous system and breathing and movement and all sorts of things. And that really led me to cranial sacral therapy, learning how to listen to the body. And that was when I started to meet some really cool healers, in the process. And that was the first time I heard the word medical intuitive. And, ultimately it was those people that they listened, they listened and they asked questions, and they gave me permission to feel those feelings, to break down, without that being a bad thing. Right. And they supported me and held that space for me. And that was when my own abilities really started to come through. And I started to see that this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to hold this space for people. I'm meant to help them to listen deeply, to have that conversation with their body, to move that energy, to help them to heal. And so it all just kind of came together all at once there.
That's such an awesome story. And I think part of the thing that makes it awesome, in my point of view, just based on the healing journey I've been on, is we struggle as women, especially because I can't speak from any other perspective. We struggle to actually feel the things we're feeling because we live in a world that tells us we can't be too emotional, but we can't not be emotional. We can't feel the thing, but we need to feel the thing. And you're constantly torn between what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, rather than just sitting in your own body and processing whatever it is, whether it be trauma or just regular emotion or whatever. We're humans having this really feeling life without actually feeling life.
Exactly. And emotions really aren't as scary as we think they are. When we just sit with them, when we sit with ourselves, and it's sort of okay, what do I need? What do I need to feel? What do I need to allow to move through me right now? When we give it that space, it actually passes rather quickly. It might feel like a big wave at first, but then it's going to trickle down to a ripple. And really that surge of energy and power that it held for so long, it starts to dissipate and kind of move on. But when we hold it down, it's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It's like you just get so fatigued, and it's like this heaviness. I meet so many people that, they just look tired and rigid, and you can tell that they're just holding so much down. But I think we don't necessarily teach people how to process and how to safely release something. It's like, if I let out anger, then I'm an angry person. I must be this angry person. But no, it's okay. Anger is just one of the many emotions that we are designed as humans to feel.
Right. And I love this conversation because for the last couple of weeks, I've been very emotional up and down in a lot of ways because I have a lot of things going on in my personal life, and I have a lot of change happening, and I've just moved, and there's all kinds of things going on. And that's the thing, right? Every time I have a feeling, I have to remind myself, it's okay. Just feel the feeling. It's not going to, it doesn't make you angry. It doesn't make you a sad person. It doesn't make you this. It just makes you that in the moment. But then you move on, right? You get to whatever the next thing happens to be, whatever the next feeling is. And you feel a lot less, as you said, weighed down by it because you've given yourself permission to stop holding on to all of the stuff that's adding stress to your life. Because quite frankly, I think we all live very stressful lives as it is. We don't need to be adding anything to it by holding it all in.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know some people are probably thinking, well, okay, I give myself permission, but nothing happens, or I just feel numb. And I think that's when movement and breath work and things like that can be so powerful. Even the next time you're feeling an emotion, even if you don't really know what it is, just kind of shaking your body, moving your body and being very present with what's coming up. Where do you feel it coming up? And just sitting with it as if we were two friends hanging out, and you were like, hey, I feel a little sad. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? How can I support you? This is the kind of way that if we talk to our body, it says oh, I'm safe. I'm safe here. This is okay. I can express this because it feels like I'm not going to get yelled at or judged if I do it. So it's really about creating that atmosphere to help us begin to process. Or, if you like to write, like get your journal out and just whatever comes out, just get it out, rip it up, throw it away. Nobody else has to read it. But it's just so important that we allow for that processing to happen when it wants to.
Well, and I think also for us to allow that it's going to be different all the time. Maybe you are somebody who journals, but that doesn't feel right in the moment, given whatever you're feeling. Maybe you do need to get outside into nature, as we were talking about before we started recording. Like I find for myself personally, it's constantly changing depending on what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. And so I need like this whole toolbox of different things to try. And I just keep trying things until I find the one that helps me work through whatever happens to be going on in the moment.
Yes. Yeah. And that's so important. It's like we are not machines. Like we don't always, input A plus B is not going to always equal C. So it's okay to experiment. It's okay to try things. I mean, that's what, when I work with clients, we're always like, okay, try this. How does that feel? Okay, it's not quite right. All right, let's do this instead. And that's where working with energy can really help make that process faster, because I can start to see what people are going to respond to well. So we don't have to try so many different things. But it really is about helping people get that toolbox, and that toolbox that we've never had before. Like we weren't taught that in school or by our parents. Most of the time our parents are trying to heal and keep their lives together, so how are they going to teach us? So it's really about having those tools, trying those things, being patient and gentle with yourself, and just understand that you're having a human experience.
And you bring up a good point, because there's very few people that I have met on my own personal journey that say, oh yeah, my parents taught me how to do all this, because they didn't. We didn't live in a world 50 years ago where that was something people did, right? It wasn't even something science thought about until very recently. I was reading The Body Keeps Score the other day, and I was just sort of mesmerized by the fact that people are just now starting to acknowledge when you have a stressor, when you have a feeling in some way, that's stored in your body physically. Even though, it's a mental thing you're going through, your body is storing that physically somewhere. And then that's passing on through your genes, through your cells to other generations. Like, it's mind-boggling to me that we've gotten here. But it's also mind-boggling to me that we haven't gotten here many decades ago, because healers decades ago knew there was something in what you do. They just were referred to as healers. And then science came along and everything got all mucked up.
Yes. Yeah. And I think talking about kind of genetics and things that get passed on, I see so many people that are like, it's like they're afraid of getting, inheriting the thing that their parents had, that ailment or that pain. But I think so much of that is based on, the messages that they were given, like those beliefs that you have, that your family had, that is passed down. And those beliefs are what start to bring that pain into our body, right? If we believe that we're weak or we're not worthy, or that we can't use our voice, that we can't be heard, the body will start to respond to those things over time with pain to try to make you see like, hey, that's not the most empowering thought that we can have here. And we want to be empowered, right? Nobody was put on earth to be disempowered and to be in pain their entire life. So it's starting to look at those beliefs. And, just because your dad had a bad back doesn't mean that you have to have the same beliefs that he had, So I often see that when clients can start to heal those beliefs that were just so ingrained since childhood, that they don't have the bad back. They don't have the same problems as their parents. And that's what's so mind-blowing to me, is because we just think so much is genetic or inherited, or, this is just my destiny. But it's not. It's like you always are in the driver's seat. You always have that power to take your life in your hands and start to reverse these things. And that is what's so cool about this work.
I love that. And I agree. I think that's so cool about what you do, because it is such sort of a freeing moment to know, genetically, maybe I might be predisposed to something, but I have the power in my hands to make the changes so that doesn't become my actual life. We as human beings, we want control over our own lives. Even if you believe in destiny and all the other things, we still want to feel like we're in control of those things. So this is why I love what you do. For people who are listening, if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So through my website, bethmanningintuitive.com, you can find out more about the kind of services that I offer and the work that I do with people. And just for the daily, I post a lot on Instagram. So Beth Manning Intuitive, again, is probably the best way to find me. I'm on Facebook as well, but I really post the most on Instagram.
I'm 100% with you. For everyone who listens to this podcast, they know I'm way more on Instagram than I am pretty much any other social media platform. And I, of course, for everyone listening, will post in the show notes a link to the website as well as Instagram and all the other stuff so that you can get in touch with Beth. You can follow Beth. You can work with Beth if that's what you so choose. It just all depends on sort of where you are in your journey as well. But Beth, before I let you go today, I typically end the podcast by asking a few questions of my guests. Are you game to answer a few questions?
Sure.
Perfect. So the first question is, if you could have a conversation with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. Who would it be and why? So recently I've been reading a book by Candace Pert called The Molecules of Emotion. And she was really the first researcher to see how our emotions cause a chemical response in our body. And so she really started to bring this science forward and to educate people that this is happening, that we have chemical responses in our body based on our emotions, based on the way that we just chronically respond to things over and over again. It's like that chemical cocktail is released. And so in a way, we're not even thinking about it over time. It just becomes this learned response. So I would actually love to talk to her. She has passed. And I just think the work that she was doing and even the work in the scientific community to push this stuff forward into our awareness and really get it out there was amazing.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to check that out because I've never even heard of her. So now I know what I'll be Googling when we're done here today.
She does. She has a great, if you don't want to commit to the whole book, she has an amazing talk. I think it's available on Audible. It's it's just a talk that she did that sort of sums up all of that.
Oh, cool. I will definitely have to check that out. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's good for the people that are skeptical, that want, that want the science behind it. Because I know that I was certainly there when I first started too. I was like, prove this to me. So she's a wonderful way to prove the science of it.
That's amazing. I love that. Okay. The next question is, what inspires you?
Oh my goodness. So much inspires me. Just seeing the changes that people can make with even just such a small input of asking, what do you need? What do you, breathing into your body? What does that feel like? And I'm amazed over and over and over again at how little it takes sometimes just to flip that switch and bring somebody's awareness to such a beautiful new place and to start to get them into their bodies. And I feel like that is just such an amazing gift that I understand how to do that. It's I feel like that's the best gift that you can give to somebody, is starting to teach them how to live in their own body again. Because it took me I don't know, 3 decades probably to learn how to do that myself. But it has radically changed every second of my life.
I love this answer, especially because one of the things you said is ask yourself, what do you need? And we don't do that far enough as humans. What do you need in this moment? What do you need to feel? What do you need in order to work through what you're feeling? What do you feel is going on? And why do you think maybe it's bad based on whatever you've gone through or whatever the world has told you or whatever? Sitting with all of those things and constantly asking yourself, is that true? Do I believe that to be true? What do I need for that to be true? Is that there's so many things you can end up down a rabbit hole. So I will try not to get us down a rabbit hole, but it's such a good question for people to just sit with themselves and ask that while they're listening to what their body is telling them, or trying to even just, do a breathing exercise to feel where they maybe feel a little bit of tension or whatever in their body. Such a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of asking what everybody else needs. Let's always start with ourselves.
Yes.
And that's not selfish at all.
I love this.
It'll actually make it easier on other people.
Well, and I think that's the thing, right? I don't know about anyone else. I won't speak for anyone aside from myself, but like I consistently growing up was always told it's other people before it's you. And it took me, as you said, decades to learn, you know what? I need to check in with me first. I need to be okay with me first. I need to know that I am okay and have me before I can have anyone else. And it's such a big thing. Like, I can't even fathom how different life would be if we taught, 2-year-olds that, right?
Exactly. And when you do that, when you take that time, when you honor your needs, like it is astounding how the people around you will automatically start to shift because you give them space to start their own healing. It's like that's the fastest way to change somebody else is to work on yourself.
Yes. And to change the world around you. I will tell you, Beth, I personally, so I started my own healing journey when I was about 30 and drastically changed my life. I sold everything I owned. I moved across the country. It was like a huge thing because I didn't know what to do with myself when I graduated university. And literally for the last 10 years, as I've made changes, as I've worked on myself personally, as I've grown my business, as I've done all the things that I've been doing, I've watched all the people I love and care about around me make changes in their lives because they see that it's possible, because they see that it can be done without causing additional harm and trauma to your life, right? We fear this thing because we don't know what it is. But when you see someone else doing it, you're like, maybe it is possible.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. And it's that power of belief and seeing that it's possible, letting other people expand your point of view and seeing that it can work. That's one of the most powerful ways. That's why it's so important, who we surround ourselves with, what we're consuming in the media, online, really giving ourselves the space to see the potential that we have and seeing other people doing the things that we want to do.
Yes. And asking yourself how you feel about it. You brought up social media and the news and all that stuff. Like one of the things I have stopped doing in the last year is really watching the news because I asked myself when I sat down, glued to CNN for a day, how is this making you feel? Is this actually like benefiting you in any way, shape, or form? Right. And when you actually start to ask yourself, like, is this really giving me anything? And you start to get the answer like, no, maybe I need to step away a little bit. Then everything else changes too. And you start to ask that question in other areas of your life too. So, I love this conversation.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. The next question is, if you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, I would definitely love to tell the little girl that felt everybody else's emotions and I didn't even know the difference between like my emotions and other people's growing up because I so strongly felt everybody else's. I just want to tell her that you have such a gift, it might not feel like it now, but once you learn how to use this gift, like this is actually going to not only help you to heal and feel empowered, but it's going to be able to help other people as well.
Oh, I love that. Now I just want to hug the little version of you too. The last question is, what does happiness mean to you?
I feel like happiness means living your truth, living your joy, your purpose. Like it might not always feel easy. It might feel so freaking scary at times. It's just a matter of like following what the inside of you says, as opposed to everybody around you. And even if everybody's disagreeing with you, just knowing that, okay, like in the long run, this is going to pay off. Like the more I can listen to myself, and even with the news and everything like that, it's so much of like tuning that out and tuning into like, well, how do I feel? What is this bringing up in me? What is this triggering? What do I need to work out right now? And it's about, really learning to go within and find the answers there.
Oh, I love that answer. That is such a great answer. For everyone who is listening, for people who have maybe, just started listening to this podcast and they have never actually sat with themselves or, been in their bodies, what's one thing that they can take away, one thing that they can do today that will help them start down that journey?
Well, I love to just have people get quiet, get in a space where they feel very safe, very uninterrupted, get cozy and sit and just place one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, and beginning to breathe, just noticing how you're breathing, trying to make it through your nose as much as you can, and just seeing if you can get a nice long breath and even longer exhale, and just see what happens when you start to follow that breath in your body. And it's okay if it feels like nothing happens, right? But at least just sitting with that tool. And if you do that every day for just even a few minutes, like you'll start to feel your body shift. You'll start to feel that relaxation come over time. And you'll start to maybe hear a thing or two that your body has to tell you.
That is such a great thing. For everyone who listens to this podcast regularly, they know when I very first started this podcast 7 years ago, and I started my own healing journey, the very first thing that I started was breath work, because I just didn't know how to breathe. We all breathe, but I didn't know how to actually breathe into my body. And it changed my life in ways I can't even describe to people. So much so that now that I'm, a few years into that whole journey, I've started Wim Hof breathing to see if I can notice what that change is as well. And it's such an amazing thing when you actually just slow down and pay attention to how breath feels in your body, how it feels when it enters and exits. It's mind-boggling to me that we don't teach this, that we're not, teaching kids how to breathe properly. But it doesn't happen because the brain just helps you breathe and people go on about life. But it's such an important thing for all of us, especially in this weird, stressful world we live in.
It is because the weird, stressful world that we live in often puts us in this state of fear. And when we're in a state of fear, we're almost like a helpless animal. We're not thinking logically, we're thinking very short term. And our breath reflects that. Often we have a very short breath right in the chest. Maybe we're breathing more through the mouth. And that's really a survival response, but we're not meant to stay there. Right. So the more that you can even sit down and do that breath work and start to retrain your body, how to breathe, how to flip that switch from, the sympathetic fight or flight to the parasympathetic, where we can chill, we can heal, because that's where healing takes place. It's really hard to heal when we're always in fight or flight, because that's not the body's priority. It just wants to survive. It doesn't care if your knee hurts. So
it's true.
Yeah. So once you start to flip that switch and, literally your surroundings will expand, because we have this narrow point of view. We're very reactionary when we're in that adrenaline surging state. So you can literally teach your body how to become calm again, how to pause before you respond to somebody. And so that's really, it's helping you to feel into your body, but it's also helping to retrain. It's like retuning your engine so that you can perform and feel a lot better every day and make better decisions. It's so powerful doing breath work.
This has been an amazing conversation, Beth. I adore you, and I'm happy to have you back on the podcast anytime.
Thank you so much. This has been fun.
I'm glad you have enjoyed it. This, I think, will be really helpful for a lot of people because, for one, I don't think there's a lot of people who know that you're out there and you do this work. But two, I think it's just really important, especially after the last couple of years that we've had, for people to be reminded that it's okay, whatever you're feeling, good, bad, or ugly. It's okay to have those feelings. Part of the reason you might be feeling stress somewhere in your body is because you have those feelings. And there is a way to work through it. You don't have to live with it long term. So I think this has been really important.
Wonderful. I'm so happy to share this because I just love it. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you to everybody who's listening. I, of course, again, will post in the show notes all of the links so that you can get in touch with Beth. You can follow her online. You can start to do the work yourself. It's such an important thing for us all. I think, coming out of the last couple of years, the more we can focus on ourselves, the more we can improve the world around us as well. So thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you have a great week. We will chat with you next week. Bye for now.